Sean Halstead and Noah Courier.
I was Air Force from 93 to 98. I got hurt practicing combat search and rescue, fell off a fast rope, so shattered L1 vertebrae. I don't know where I'd be without paralyzed veterans. I've only seen that now.
Unite through struggle, that's what the Marine Corps and service is all about. You get tight and those bonds just get stronger and stronger the more you struggle together, and the harder the hardship. And I don't know if it gets any harder than being a quadriplegic, so we instantly bond.
Paralyzed Veterans of America is a nonprofit, and it gets no federal funding.
And we provide every service free of charge to every veteran and caregiver that we support.
Paralyzed Veteran and PVA Executive Director Sherman Gillums Jr.
Every life, every success, every recovery, it's tied to the initial investment you've had in us.
To learn more, visit pva.org, a public service message from Paralyzed Veterans of America.
We now return to Nassau Community College Forum.
Welcome back to Nassau Community College Forum on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Kevin Boston Hill, and our guests today are Dr. William Moeck, coordinator of the Multidisciplinary Course Project, and Dr. Florence D. Boodakian, coordinator of the Human Rights Studies Project here at NCC. Now, Dr. Boodakian, before we left on the break, we were just getting into, some of the other ways that, or the things that are studied through these projects, and we're getting ready to touch on the virtual space. So can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, some of the faculty are actually were invited by NYU to do a presentation in Orlando in November, and we are going to talk about the use of virtual reality as an active learning technique that in human rights studies specifically.
Okay.
And the example we're going to do is we're going to take students and the faculty who were there into a Syrian refugee camp. And the studies have shown so far that when students are actually placed inside of the space, they seem to have a much more empathetic reaction. As opposed to those people over there versus us over here. We get into a lot of that us versus them stuff. So, and try to work in a space that also is very common to them now.
Right.
They're very into it. They like the idea of the virtual reality. They like the idea of stepping into this other space. And yet when they do it, they're all rather surprised at how emotional and also how much they can take away from that. That goes beyond us reading to them, let's say, this is what happens when, Syrians are placed in a refugee camp or something like this. So I think in many ways the virtual world, although it has its sort of negative points, of course, it can be used as an educational tool. And we're trying to do that in a way that enables our students to become a little bit more empathetic toward things that are not in their backyard.
Yes.
It's not their experience, and they can sort of then see through the eyes of the other, which is the entire point of human rights studies in a sense.
I want to riff on that idea of empathy for a minute, because I think MDC in orientation is maybe not as invested politically. I mean, I think a question that would come up in MDC is, why is it good for people to be empathetic? I mean, and to look at different writers. I mean, but challenging the idea that, well, maybe it's not good. I mean, maybe we should all be selfish. Is that what survival of the fittest means? That's what's natural for us to be only out for number one. I think that's definitely a key question in the humanities when you talk about civil rights, when you talk about human dignity, is how much responsibility one human being has from another. I mean, and is that responsibility something that's drilled into, or as a result of home or church or family or job, or is it logical or rational, rather, to be good in the traditional sense? So anyway, I think the question of empathy in civil rights is can be approached in different ways. And
Right,
I'm listening to Professor Boodakian talk. I'm just struck by
You're
different ways
absolutely
to handle
right.
it.
I think you're absolutely right. You're both right in this, and I think where the unique opportunity that we have here, utilizing the technology or the virtual space to teach empathy, kind of goes in the opposite direction of what we have seen this technology being used for, because we get into these virtual rooms and these game spaces and things, and it's almost like as if we get turned off to everybody.
Right.
And we become more into ourselves, so we don't really learn about what empathy is or to be empathetic towards each other. But now you're talking about doing it just the opposite. Go ahead.
What I'm more interested in, though, is how empathy is linked to learning.
Right.
Because if I care about this, I'm going to pay more attention.
Right.
And that happens from a very young age up until our college students.
yes.
So if I really like this and I'm engaged and I'm here standing here right next to this refugee, I don't know. I may start to understand these problems in a different way than I would have if I read it beyond my textbook.
Right, right. And then, so therefore the understanding and the learning becomes much more deep than it was originally. And we take a different course of action towards that. That's great. And I have another question I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you right after I do this quick station break. You're listening to Nassau Community College Forum on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Kevin Boston Hill, and our guests today are Dr. William Moeck, coordinator of the Multidisciplinary Course Project, and Dr. Florence D. Boodakian, coordinator of the Human Rights Studies Project here at Nassau Community College. And I guess what I want to get into now is what are some of the, the courseworks or some of the other elements that make up the projects that you all are involved with, that our students will be involved with as well?
Well, MDC offers students at Nassau 4 distinct courses that could be taken in any order. One course is about postmodernism, which is kind of a catchword for today's culture. We're living in the postmodern age. And what does that mean? Well, it means really what has been the effect of the new media on the way people think post 1950 now into the 21st century. So students are introduced to important thinkers like Jacques Derrida or Baudrillard. I think that's an exciting course that we're going to be offering online soon as well. Another course is called Studies in World Cultures, which imagines what it would be like to live in Tokyo and Mexico City and Cairo. So we're looking at a representative cross-section of life in a Buddhist country, an Islamic country, and in a Christian country, and in comparing and contrasting the values and the cultural traditions of each. The core or fundamental 2 classes for MDC are called The Making of the Modern Mind. There's 1 and 2, although they don't have to be taken in that order. Mm-hmm. Number 2 looks at developments in the humanities in the first half of the 20th century in terms of the visual arts, music, architecture, and literature. And MDC 101, the first half, looks at the social sciences and the hard sciences. Like, well, what is the theory of evolution according to Darwin? Why does Marx think communism will automatically replace capitalism? What does Freud say is the role of the unconscious mind in our daily life? And what is the theory of relativity? And the idea being that all of these authors, artists, and ideas are fundamental to the life of an educated person, that everyone needs to know who Picasso was, who Frida Kahlo was, who Einstein was, and so these are liberal arts courses in the true sense of the word. That you are really well prepared, I think, to go on to a 4-year school after having taken 1 or more of the MDC courses.
Okay.
So we have the HRS 101, which is the Introduction to Human Rights Studies, both face-to-face and online. And in that course, we explore, we begin with Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and having the students analyze 5 of those rights in a lot of detail. And they have to research 2 countries.
Okay.
1 can be the U.S., but they have to go outside the U.S., and try to find examples of where the right is being upheld or abused. And they come back, and it's very interesting as collaborative. The students, share their research with each other, and many are often shocked. And then we move on. We do, and it's very tricky to try to do all. You're not going to do all of 20th century genocide.
Right.
So we end up doing the Holocaust in Rwanda, and they look at how, from a specific perspective, how the people who suffered were failed by those in power. How the UN took a very long time to come to the aid in Rwanda, what that aid looked like in Rwanda, who was served in Rwanda. They watch Hotel Rwanda. They do a lot of other research on Rwanda on their own, and we sort of, we give them a lot of handouts and readings and so on, so that they're aware of the whole context of the genocide.
Right.
We move on to rights in war and peace. We talk about the tearing down, let's say, of whatever rights people have in wartime. Rape is a weapon of war, and what happens.
Do you torture?
I'm sorry?
Do you cover torture?
Yes. And we also move toward, I just want to make sure we say that we end up at the end of the course, at the end of HRS 101, the students doing some kind of project, which is an active project, which means that they take one of the issues we've discussed, and we do extraordinary rendition, torture. They read the torture memos, and some of them are very moved by the torture memos. We do an analysis of the torture memos, and I have them try to figure out, and many of the other instructors have them try to figure out what was that all about, the rewriting of the torture memos, and what was the goal, and how do the American people react to that. So we look at it from a lot of different angles. And in that course also we established the idea of the silent witness, which carries us through a lot of the other courses. The second course we have is the Peace Studies course, which we are trying to now begin a workshop on peace literacy here at Nassau Community College. We have Paul K. Chappelle coming in October, and he's going to hopefully get a lot of both the faculty and students engaged in this idea of peace literacy. In other words, we teach literacy, obviously, and we're very engaged with it. But what does it mean to have a kind of literacy about peace? And so that we're looking forward to. And then the internship course is our third course, which we're it's very new for us. And we're trying to get students to actually have this hands-on experience in the field. Many of them have taken the online course. I had a student from Afghanistan who was already working in an NGO who was in my online class. So a lot of them already have come to the course with experience. And then at the close of hopefully this year, we're going to have human rights and the arts.
Right.
And that's going to be our fourth course that we will have on books.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank all of you for both of you for being here today. Today we've had our guests, Dr. William Moeck and Dr. Florence D. Boodakian, both from the English department, talking about their particular projects. My name is Kevin Boston Hill, and thank you all for listening to Nassau Community College Forum, right here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.